to us as Western diet eaters of white sugar, white bread, white flour.
The big thing is the doctors were always interested in disease,
Right.
into disease. He wanted to know what was keeping people healthy.
Right.
So he wanted to find the reasoning why these people are healthy. He didn't really care about people that were sick and making them better. He wanted to know why people were staying healthy and they didn't even have, cancer in their words, So there's a great book. I highly recommend it. It's called Nutrition and Physical Degeneration. Nutrition and Physical Degeneration. A great book by Dr. Weston Price. So it's very, very good.
Incredible power and influence that is contained in this room, and I have so much hope in it. Truly. So today we're going to talk about a couple of things. And we're going to open up with the topic, the advertised topic of this talk, which is the introduction to heirloom gardening. Now I want to start this with full disclosure. For those of you who are familiar with our YouTube channel, you're familiar. We're homesteading in Central Arkansas. We have 6 children between us, so we have a blended family. And we're working currently with 7 acres. We also have a lease that our horses are on, but everything else is on 7 acres. We grow a really large organic heirloom, largely heirloom garden, mostly raised beds. And we produce a good bit of our food, and we are steadily working for that to be a larger ratio. Our journey started, really, we met, and I had this deeply rooted homestead dream. I wanted it so badly. Maya?
I did not quite have that, but she's really cute, and that goes a long way.
And so we got married and had basically said, eventually, we would like to live out in the country, grow food, have the hobby farm thing, have the baby animals, and, have some space, just get out of city life. That was kind of the original thing. I became aware of the brokenness of our food system when my now 12-year-old son was born, and he was severely allergic to all dairy products, and in order to nurse him, I had to cut that out of my diet. And so for the first time in my life, I was put in a place that I needed to read labels. And I was like, what? I couldn't even read half the stuff. And I'm like, what is this? I didn't even know what I was eating. And that kind of started the journey. And so when Maya met me a few years later, Asher was 3, and here I was, this single mom with this crazy idea that we were gonna have this farm. And he was like, whatever you want, baby. I'll give you the farm of your dreams. And so we got married, we lived in town, we were in ministry, and I was running a photography business. And much to Jeremiah's dismay, that dream, it didn't go away. It just got bigger. And in 2014, we found a foreclosure, and that was the moment. We had basically made the decision we're going to be content where we are. I had just set myself to learning everything that we could. And at this point, so in that season of learning everything I could, I started growing things in the flower beds. I wasn't allowed to till anything up, and I wasn't allowed to build raised beds. And so it was pots, containers, flower beds, Rubbermaid tubs. It was just whatever I could put some soil in and grow something in. And my first attempt at a garden failed miserably. And after that, I got into heirlooms. One thing led to another, and I read a book called Animal Vegetable Miracle, and I fell in love. I'll never forget this page of this book where she talks about looking at heirloom seed catalogs the way some women look at jewelry catalogs. Her hand on her chest and her eyes staring off in a far off place, and she began to name off the names. And here I am living in suburbia, killed every plant I ever touched. And I'm like, oh, I want to do that.
It came to us and was like, I know what we're going to get Mom for Christmas. And I'm thinking, oh, this will be really cool, it'll be unique. And he's like, we're going to get her catalogs. because every time a catalog comes in the mail, she gets so excited and spends hours reading them. And so like, you know, like Murray McMurray Hatcheries catalog, I mean, she dreamed of the chicken breeds we would have and the turkeys and the ducks, and the seed catalog, I mean, countless hours, but like we had no land, you know, no feasible way to plant even 1% of what she was circling and highlighting. But that was just, I mean, it was so ingrained in, like, her dream was so much a part of her that even in that season, like, her 4-year-old son was like, oh, this is a real thing.
So, like, for me, when I stand up and I'm going to tell you how to get started in heirloom gardening, my very first piece of advice, you better wake up that romantic part in you that cares about the story of things and the beauty of things, and get ready to be wooed by the garden. And I promise you, you are going to have more success if you take that approach. If you are honest with yourself and willing to fall in love with being alive, okay? And that seems like an obscure and silly notion, and I've spent my entire life being told that I'm a romantic and poetic and silly girl. And today I stand before you at 34 years old and I say, yes, I am. I am 100% a romantic, poetic, and silly girl that has made an incredible impact in the world because I said that's okay to be that way. It is okay to be that way. And so I did. I fell in love with heirloom seed catalogs in a big way. And here's the thing. Now let's get, there is a practical aspect of this, but I like to be really honest with myself. This is going to be funny now because we get a lot done. I've dealt with being lazy. That's probably the vice in my life that I've dealt with the most, is just being like, I don't feel like doing that right now. And that ruled my life for so long. And being sucked into social media, being sucked into scrolling, being sucked into eating bad food because that was what was easy. And it took me being honest with myself and being like, I don't want to live my life like this. I want to live my life on purpose. And whenever I read that moment of this woman romantically looking at this heirloom seed catalog and just being wowed by the colors and the beauty of it and being like, oh, there's a part of me that relates to that and I want to be that way. That doesn't happen. A beautiful garden doesn't happen without being on purpose. It doesn't happen without confronting your habits and your What I want to do is clear up some language. Like a lot of people, I get this message literally 10 times a week. Hey, is it okay for me to buy the seed here or there because I don't want to get GMO seed? As a home gardener, when you buy a seed packet, it is not GMO seed. Okay, you need to know that. However, there are some dangers that come in place with not knowing the source of what we buy. Okay, so heirloom seeds are by definition a variety or cultivar of seed that has been the same for, there's arguable amounts of time. Some people say 50 years, some people say 100 years, some people say 75, some people just say 1 to 2 generations, but we'll just say for a while. It's established, it's been the same, it's got a story. But right now, you can buy seeds that were developed in like the 1930s and 40s from the Heinz company. They developed those seeds to have really high acid for making ketchups, and Campbell's has heirlooms. Those are heirlooms now. Those companies have been around long enough that the things they developed are now considered heirlooms. So when we talk about heirlooms, a lot of times the grid we have for that is what's for sale for $6.98 a pound at Whole Foods. And that's not it. Heirlooms is just a cultivar that's been around for a whole long time. It's not just tomatoes, it's all kinds of plants. Hybrids, in and of themselves, are not bad, okay? A hybrid, by definition, is a plant that came from a cross.
There are different strains of birds from different hatcheries. So we have used, over the years, we've probably used, I don't know, probably not 10, but more than 6 different kinds of hatcheries around the country. And we have found, I mean, even though this is supposedly the industry bird, the industry breeds for cut-ups, for whole birds. They've got whole different strains for if we're going to cut it up, if we're going to do whole broilers, or if we're going to turn them all into McNuggets. Okay, I mean they have different genetic. That's how sophisticated the genetics are in the industry. All right. I don't know what ours is, but I know that from hatchery to hatchery, there's a pretty big difference. And so I tell people, if you're not satisfied, do the fur trail first. If you're not satisfied, then try a different hatchery. There's a lot of them, and try them until you find the one that works. We actually have used hatcheries that just didn't work at all for us, and run into people that say, I tried all the hatcheries, and the only one that works for us is this one, and it's one that didn't work for us. So, we're back to the gentleman's question about, heat and cold and all that. I don't know what all those nuances are, but just start experimenting, and you'll finally hit on the one that works. Okay? What we've come to in our country now, unfortunately, is that in many things like this, it's actually cheaper and simpler, more efficacious to circumvent. I didn't say to be illegal. I said circumvent. There's a difference between circumvention and being illegal. Than it is to comply. And everybody's genuflexing and carrying on trying to figure out how to comply. And a lot of times it's better to just circumvent. And so, for example, in North Carolina, there's a lady, Niti Bali, and she has started a 501c3 food church. If you join her church, you can get everything illegal you can imagine. And the state keeps trying to close her down. They park outside her house. They try to interrupt her customers, and she just keeps right on going. She's amazing. So she's going to be one of the speakers. So the idea of the conference is to showcase these very creative, savvy people around the country who have developed legal circumventive techniques, whether it's pet food, food church, country club, private membership, where the food is not being sold. It's the food is a dividend of your investment. Okay, so there's every kind of thing you can imagine, so that the transaction is not in commerce. That's where they come and get you. I could give these chickens away, right? Everybody'd be happy. What is it that if we trade money for them, suddenly they go from benevolent to hazardous? In the drug war we have going on right now, if you want cocaine, it's considered a hazardous substance. I don't want to get in a big debate about drug wars. I don't believe in it, but anyway, the point is that the prohibitions are: you can't own it, you can't use it, you can't give it away, you can't sell it, you can't buy it, you can't, right? In food, all the prohibitions are only on the seller. There's no prohibition on the buyer, no prohibition for feeding it to your kids and all the neighbors. The prohibition is only on the seller, which means it's really not a hazardous substance. It's not about safety. It's about defining what's accessible in the marketplace. Okay? And so don't let anybody tell you that this is about food safety, because it's not. It's about defining what's available in the marketplace. And so when you view it that way, you kind of you're able to point out that the emperor has no clothes. So inspection. As long as we don't sell across the state lines, that means we can't deliver them across the state line if they're pre-sold. I think I could run for election here today. I just don't like the money. So there's just a lot of things going on out there, and so January 25, Cincinnati, we want to showcase all of these cool, savvy, creative circumventions that are going on around the country, so that people who attend can leave and be empowered with templates. Okay. To go. The other thing is to join the Farm and Consumer Legal Defense Fund. I can't say enough good about them. They are probably doing more to preserve freedom of food choice in this country. You know, we actually have federal judges that are writing opinions saying Americans do not have the right to choose the food of their choice in this country. We have those opinions coming down. And so right now, in my view, where we are is right now about where homeschooling was about 35 years ago. We homeschooled our kids, and it was when you pulled the shade, you didn't ask, you didn't tell, you didn't go to town, you didn't say, you didn't do anything. And because at that time, they would actually send out truant officers and take your kids into state custody for being so negligent and abusive as to conceive of something as antisocial as homeschooling, as neglectful as homeschooling. And thankfully, through the efforts of Homeschooling Defense Association, Michael Ferris and others, we won that battle. And you know, it's a whole different climate today. The new bogeyman in the culture is food. And one of the reasons is because people don't know anything about food anymore. And you're always fearful about what you don't know about. We get calls from customers, how do you thaw a chicken? You know, we've been vegetarians for 30 years, my husband wants a hamburger, how do you make a hamburger? I mean, you wouldn't believe the level of culinary ignorance there is out there. Well, you're always fearful of what you don't know. So as we have lost our knowledge of food, we have become paranoid about it as a culture, and that paranoia has demanded interventive, you know, government oversight, which ends up actually making it very hard to have an antidote to the problems of the system. Question? Yes.
Yes, sir. What's some of your sources for acquiring these crosses? Or trying to breed them yourself?
So the laying hens that we're breeding ourselves?
No, just for your coin rocks.
Oh, we buy these from a hatchery.
That's what I think.
I mean, these are just overages from Tyson. Yeah, and I mean, it's the same genetics, but raised completely different, and I may add, they have a completely different profile. The polyunsaturated, saturated, unsaturated fat profile, completely different. The nutrition's completely different. Everything's different about these birds. So same bird, raised differently. You know, the average person, if they quit smoking and drinking and living on food out of Sheetz gas station, the same person, same genetic, will be a very different kind of person. Are you with me? And the same with these chickens.
Hey y'all, it's 2:45. I guesstimated 2:45, didn't I?
Yeah.
And here we are, pulling in the driveway at 2:45 a.m. Yeehaw! Hope all is well. See you next time.